I'm just back from 14 days in Egypt, and I'm bubbling with words and frequencies and energies that I just wanted to share. The potency of this journey, over a year in the making, which I was told to name the Wings of Isis. And Isis was our mother and our guardian whilst we journeyed, and so we were held within her wings. So all of the experiences we had, all of the magic, the moments, the tears, the laughter, the wonders, were as if we were her children exploring the world within this safe container. And so much growth took place, and it's that kind of growth that you know it's happened. It's like planting your seeds in the spring, yet you may not see the sprouts or the seed or the fruits until they've sat in the soil and been fertilized, been nourished, and are ready to grow and bloom. Yet to walk this journey consciously aware of that process, to consciously walk it knowing that we are rebirthing ourselves through our chakras, our gates, through our energy fields, and then blending that with the energy of the sacred sites, where the temples and the pyramids and the things, where they are. I'm going to call them sacred sites. Just amplified the consciousness and the awareness and the intention of the entire journey. And I can't say if next year we'll hold the same theme. I feel like it's shifting already into, at the moment it feels more it's like, so the entire journey this time, the Wings of Isis rebirth, was about the preparation into a higher octave, and the rebirth codes that we received were to embed so that this journey that we go through continuously, this rebirth, this death rebirth, this shedding of the old, this rebirth, that doesn't stop. That's our divine evolution in a sense. But to be coded with that allows the process for everyone to simplify. And so with the next octave that we have journeyed into, which is, again, it's global, it's collective, yet the group of us that traveled through Egypt were holding that as such a deep intention. The next octave, when we walk through it, and when we have to integrate with the difference in the energies, it will be more harmonious. And so yeah, the next one feels very different right now, but it's definitely happening. It will be next November. A few little tweaks. I don't think I'll remove any of the places we visited, but we will have different private visits, and we may have longer on a private Nile boat, the Dahabiya, because there was something so beautiful about being on the Nile within our sacred container. So there's a little insight into what's for next year. And so I just wanted to share a few of the, I don't know, what I would call highlights. Starting with, at the time, one that didn't feel like a highlight. So when I started planning this trip in 2024, I went to Egypt. I went to Luxor for a week. I was called by Sekhmet, and I stood in front of her, had some tears, had some exchanges, and then I think the following day I was heading to Dendera. And I'd been to Dendera on a private visit, but we had only been, not, Dendera is just like, there are so many places within the temple, and we'd only gone to a few of them. So my personal, exploration on this week I had in Luxor was to see more of Dendera, to go up to climb up and go to the where the zodiac is and the shrines. It's like a story for me of Osiris, and what I wasn't prepared for was to see Nut, the sky goddess, who you see in Dendera, you see in other temples as the arched sky mother with a body full of stars, likened to the Milky Way. But you always see her kind of flat, like drawn on, and like a side view. And what blew me away was I was met with a soft underbelly, like this. I was standing underneath her. I could see the curves of her body. She'd been sculpted into the sky, or the ceiling above my head, and you could see the curvature as if you were literally underneath her. And my guidance in that moment that didn't ever go away was lie under the belly of Nut. This was the meditation, part of the work that had to happen at Dendera. So I leave Luxor in 2024 with strong instructions of what has to happen at Dendera. And so then over the year I'm shown the next little step, the next place to take everybody, the next thing we have to do. And I'm so excited. Like, I insist to my Egyptian colleague that Dendera has to be a private visit. So that all gets organised. So with the private visits, we're the only group there. We're the only people in the temple. So here we are, we turn up on our Wings of Isis tour in our priestess dresses. I've even been given instructions of the dresses I have to wear at certain temples, and I just followed the guidance. I followed the instructions, and quite liked it. And we arrive, and you have this 2-hour slot, so I'm trying to move fast to get in. And there was a incident. I'm not going to share too many details, it just wouldn't be right, and it wasn't anything too scary or anything like that, but I was kind of intimidated a little bit, let's say, by somebody at the site. And then it was like this person just had their eyes on me, and we were supposed to have a private visit, and we were not having a private visit. And to the point where it turned, there was a small little group lying down under the belly of Nut, looking at the hieroglyphs, reading, the star maps above us, and this furore of voices and phone calls outside because of a dislike of something. And I'm very confused. I'm trying to think about and look after my women and communicate with the guides and the guards that are with us, and not really understanding what's going on or what we've done. And then after this process and this furore of voices and phone calls calms down, we are then taken to another part of the temple. And as I went to step into the inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies, it all took off again. And so we went in anyway, but nothing that I'd had planned for this whole year, that, this trying to follow this guidance that was given to me, was taking place. And then finally, there were 2 guards that were very peaceful and very calm, and they, along with the people that were with us, our team, they took us all around the different places within Dendera, and some which are locked and closed off. And we were allowed to go into some of the crypts. There's some that people I've been in before, but there were others that you had to climb these really rickety ladders, or you had to go down and crawl, and just places that I'd never been before within the temple. And just to be met by these amazing stories upon the wall, these confirmations of our rebirth, these perspectives of, and I'm talking, we were climbing a ladder, and we were stood in a room where 6 of us could stand, and that was about it. There was no other space. And then as you look out from this high up little chamber, there's a notch in the wall on the opposite side, and there is an image of Ma'at, and there is 2 Isis type figures with their wings out facing towards Ma'at. And I mean, in the moment, in these moments, it's like, well, okay, that means something. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that means something. I was made to stand in this exact spot and to see what's happening, what this little spot was for. And it was in that tiny little chamber with the 6 of us stood together where I finally calmed. And it was about Ma'at. It was about the harmony and the balance, the cosmic balance, laws of the universe, and then it became very clear what was taking place. The temple, as well as us, were in some kind of sacred exchange, and I just kept hearing the word neutralizing, we're neutralizing. And it was almost through the dedication to being so committed to what I thought had to happen that kept this, that tied us to this moment in time, that it's beyond imagination of the divinity and the timing of it, that excitement that led me to hold that for a year, to then walk into something very, very opposite, but then to realize that it was work of service. And I feel really vulnerable saying that out loud. I feel very egoic, but we were there to carry out work of service for Hathor, for the temple, for the sacred lands, for the universal principles. And that service was to witness, to neutralize the dissonance that the temple had been holding. And partly because of the views and the I'm just going to say misunderstanding, right, of the not everybody feels something within these sacred spaces the way others do. And so there was a dissonance, and the temple wanted a neutralization, and in return we got a neutralization. And like, this has all pieced together since Dendera, but it was there, it was dropped in at the time. I just had to step away from the actual situation to hear it. And so, like, for me, this isn't about that situation. This is about the service and the work and the dedication and the commitment that it's not only us that make it. It's the divine. It's the sacred energies that are living within these walls, within these spaces, which is why the temples are still there. You know, like, let's be clear that we aren't going to Egyptian temples. We're going to temples built by those who followed the Egyptians, the Ptolemies, the Romans, the Greeks. But they all had something in them telling them to continue worshipping something on these sites. They were following something before them. And for me, like, everything pulls you right to the source if you allow it. If you follow it back and follow it back and follow it back, and you don't look at the story of just the Romans, just the Greeks, just the, you keep on following, you find the feeling. And the feeling is what pulls you and roots you to that moment. And then that's when unexplainable yet divine things happen. And that for me is what felt like Dendera gifted us. You know, it was laughable in the, you know, there were just little synchronicities. Like when we arrived, there were bats flying, and I love bats. Like, I'm not afraid of bats, and so I was very excited, and I was like, yes, they know where we're going. They're leading us where we have to go. And then they did. They led us right to the place we had to start the meditation. And then once everything became a little bit not the way I was expecting, I was like, there were more bats, and it was like, are they protecting? What's happening here? And then one of the people who turned up to apologize to us for what had happened, like I mean it in a really beautiful way, he looked like a bat. And I was like, okay, right, these are the little synchronicities that the divine send to you, like to follow, to feel that excitement, to feel that confirmation, whatever it is. And so Dendera just, it swept me off my feet and opened my eyes even more to the sacred path that we walk with the divine. Okay. There was just so much more upon this journey. We ended, this is another beautiful story. So a lot of the preparation work we did for this journey was very important. And one of the on the journey preparations we had to do were, when we were between the paws of the Sphinx, we had to make some sounds that activated our chakra gates, so that we entered inner Egypt, and we did so open, prepared, and held, and in a receptive state. And so these sounds were something that we could bring ourselves back to if we needed to. And then on the final, so that was at the beginning, and then we kind of touched in with them. Perhaps some of the women did in their own ways as well. And then our final visit was in the Unaz pyramid at the Saqqara complex, because the site of Saqqara. And again, this was another received meditation that I was told, here's a bit of it, here's a symbol, do this, the rest will arrive when you're there. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trust. And so it did. I did what I was instructed, and the rest started to appear. It was all about a seal, like a seal, you know, you sometimes hear of seals that are stored in your soul star or in other places within your energy field. And for me, they're memories of the lineages that you hold. They're memories of the work that you've done in previous lives, or, you know, other dimensions, other octaves. And so this seal was it was symbolic of the closure of one octave and an entry into the next. And so we had to seal the 3 cauldrons, and then we had to place the seal within the 3 cauldrons, and then within the 7 gates. And the whole message was the 3 and the 7 become the 1, which is basically saying, you know, the numerology of that, 3 and 7 make 10, and 10 is the number of the completion and the beginning. So it makes the 1, it begins again. And as we were sat and I was closing the final meditation, and being aware that within the Unaz pyramid, you are surrounded by incantations on the walls of the pyramid texts, which are the spells and the messages to support you into moving into eternal life, the afterlife. So we've opened ourselves to receive what we personally need to for this entire ceremony. And so we're sat at the end, and I'm just listening, and I knew there was some sound needed. but we'd closed the gates, we'd closed everything off, and it wasn't the sounds that we'd worked with at the beginning that I could feel. So I just said to Pata, like, if there's sound that you need me to make, give it to me and I'll make it. And it didn't come. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust that, and there must be some kind of sound. Maybe the women are humming, maybe something is, you know, maybe there's a resonance that I just need to trust and is fine. So we call our Egyptologist down once we've finished so she can show us around, give us her experience, her stories, her messages about the place we're in. And a man appears with her, and he talks about chakras, and he talks about there being 21, 7 in each world. So 3 and 7. So 7 within each of these 3, totaling to 21. And in this very beautiful, quiet, gentle voice, he asks us if we want a demonstration. And everyone was like, yeah. And how he said about sound, you can use sound to you know, he was making all these movements and, you know, meaning, like, we're like, we've just entered another octave and this man has just appeared and he's talking about sounds and frequencies, and we're like, thank you, universe. And so he says to place our hands very gently upon one another, and he starts to make this most beautiful sound. And it wasn't and it was more like moving through the sounds that we had opened our journey with. Like, it was like a blend of them all. And then so he said, you know, join in. So we did it a few times, and it was like, there it is. That was the sound that sealed the seal within us. And I was just overwhelmed with joy, elation, happiness, confirmation. And then we leave the pyramid, and he takes us to another place where you can hear these sounds. I've researched it, and, you know, some people call it a sound hospital on this site. So it was just such a beautiful, again, it was like a gratitude of the service from us to us, like this sacred reciprocity. And I've come away just still in that childlike splendor of innocence and purity of, I want to know more. You know, like, I don't feel I feel as large as I feel small, in the sense of wanting to just continually stay being the pupil to this place, to the divine, to the Neteru. Because when you stay in that place of curiosity, when you stay in that place of innocence and you know, openness to, there is so much more, you always have something to learn. You are always going to become wiser, right? So I just wanted to share a little bit that, you know, I could have gone into so much more, but those 2 experiences were the depth that, for me, is what this path is about. You know, you walk so far on the surface where everything's great and you're in tune with things, but at some point you are called deeper, and then you are called deeper, and then you are called deeper, and every deepening you take, you are also expanding. And there we go. I have many ideas that have come, many ways to bring the Neteru to you through my work, and I will be working on these in the next few weeks, including things like what's the one I was being shown mostly this morning, it's like masterclasses on the Neteru, and then a devotee community. And the funny thing is, I've been in the background, I've been building the kind of technology, the website architecture of something like this, and then I shelved it because it didn't feel right, and now it feels like I've been given another piece that slots in. So I'm just going to work on these things. I'll share what I can. I'll share when it feels right. That's just the way I do it. But yeah, if you've listened this far, thank you. If you've been to Egypt and you want to share your experiences, then please feel free to use this as a space to do so. The comments, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on my blog or on Facebook. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. Bye.